right, good morning. How are you guys doing today? Everybody well?
Yes, sir.
I can hear you're fired up, all right? Everybody walk through the door today ready to train to be warriors. Okay, so things you need to know about the final. Unlike the midterm you walked in and you already had a what?
71.
You already had a 71. You walked through those doors for the final, you already have a
66.
66.
Oof.
66. So that means you are going to have to work hard, right, for your grade. Now, last time you had how many fights? 3. This time you only have 2.
Ooh.
We'll be making up fight brackets for you based on your weight. I think Captain Brenn's class, God bless you, Captain Brenn's class is using the weights that you started the course with. I don't know if the other class is doing the same, but our class is going with the weights that you had originally signed up with. All right. From there, we'll bracket you out, so hopefully you have already scrubbed your schedule so that this way you know that you'll be there or not. The fights are still going to be over 2 days. That day that you fight, you'll fight both your fights and then move on. We'll fight that particular bracket to make sure you get your fights in. And then the following day, we'll fight the other brackets that we didn't fight. All right, so that's how that works. Those of you that are not fighting on a particular day, you're going to help run the show. So you'll run the brackets, you'll help tape gloves. You get to wear gloves for the fight because striking is in effect. And what we do is we just, with a single strip of tape, we just go around in order to keep the flap on the glove down so that this way it doesn't come off and start scratching people with the Velcro. All right? We start out in the 50-50 clinch so that this way somebody has to, or both of you initiate to take the fight to the ground. Whoever ends up in a top position is going to win points for that. Okay, that means although you may jump guard and pull the person down, guess what? You're not going to get takedown points for that. You know who gets takedown points for that? The person on top in guard. Why? Because they can strike. They can get that elbow up higher than their shoulder in order to start raining down the fury. So therefore, they're in a more dominant position, even though guard is considered still it's a weak dominant position, but or aggressive position. But you're not going to get any points for that. So just remember that all you guard pullers out there. All right. We'll give you up to about 3 strike points per position. The striking is used to do what? It's meant to train that, but it's also meant to advance the fight. So if you're sitting, there's no TKO, so if you're sitting there just wailing on a person, we're going to allow up to maybe 3 strike points in that position, then we're going to tell you, okay, you've used up your strikes, move the fight along. So either use it to go for an armbar, use it to go for a sweep, use it for something, to use it to advance to a better position, but move the fight along, okay? Unlike last time where top mount and rear mount were worth the same amount of points, now rear mount is worth 4, top mount is worth 3, side control is still worth 2, sweeps are worth 2. Okay, so there's a little bit in the different positions there. I believe there's some other points to be had as far as, well, I told you the striking, and then
Submission attempts.
Actual submission attempts. So that means if I'm looking for a submission from guard, going for that cross collar choke, just holding on to their collar for the entire 3 minutes is not a valid submission attempt. A valid submission attempt would be, I've set one hand in, I've set the other hand in, I'm bringing them down. Maybe they've gotten their chin down, or maybe they got a hand through. You've done all the proper mechanics, but they've managed to ward you off. That would be a good submission attempt. Maybe I've gone for that straight arm bar, where I've got the arm, came all the way over, I've laid back, and they've done a good job to fight it off. You'll get points for those submission attempts, okay? It's where last time it was just submissions from the positions we taught. Now, we feel that we've given you enough strategy that you should be able to ward off most things. Things that are still not allowed are lower body locks, so lower body submissions we haven't taught, we don't do in here, so those are out. let's see what else is out. Nothing with flaming or flying in the title, so those are out, right? Strikes are still below the collarbone, not on the collarbone, below the collarbone and above the hip bone and off the spine. Nothing to the face. You are responsible for this weapon. All right, no elbows also. All right, just so that we're clear. Let's see, what else? We talked about the chokes. Just remember, if somebody's leaning on that throat, turn your head to the side, they're no longer on your throat. Okay? However, we're also not looking to let people get crushed on their esophagus, so just watch those. No pulling on the black shirts. All right? The other thing that's still in effect is you have to watch stacking people on their neck. All right? We'll probably warn you about that going in. If they're setting in that straight arm bar or a choke, figure a way out of it other than stacking them on their neck. There's no slamming people still. That means if they're in the guard and they wallow up on you, right? They climb up on you and they're now sitting up on your lap or up on your hip. You can't pick them up and slam them down. All right? That's not a way that we're going to allow you to get out of that. You are responsible for bringing that person to the ground. All right? No standing guillotines. All right? I believe, sir, the guillotine is allowable during the final or not?
It is. You just have to finish it in guard.
Finish it in guard. So like I said, you can't be standing. That means if I have it here, I can't just drop down to the ground. I have to get them down to the ground safely. It is a neck that we're dealing with, somebody's head and neck. So if I have that guillotine set in, just take that knee back to the side, sit back down, wrap up in guard, and you're good to go. All right? None of that from here, jump up in guard and fall back. All right? We got to remain safe. Don't break our toys. Okay. So I've talked about what constitutes points, what constitutes what you are allowed to do, what you are not allowed to do. Make sure everybody gets here on time so that this way we can get the fight started early. We try to get through as many fights or as many flights as possible so that we can get through that bracket. And what are your questions? Does anybody have any questions about the fights? Did I miss anything, sir? Anything imperative?
So how does my grade work? So say I win the fight 2-0, I just get 100 points towards my grade, or?
No, so each one of those points that the points that you collect during the fight go towards your grade. So we said you started with a 66, and then for a win, whoever wins gets an additional 8 points on top of those points, right? So you start with a 66, whatever points you collected during the fight. If you win, another 8 points, and if you lost, I think it's 2, or right? It's an additional 2 points. Okay.
So let's say that you lose the fight, but you get like 20 points in the fight. You get those 20 points?
You would get those 20 points. Give or take. Do you get the full 20 points?
They don't translate.
They don't translate point to point.
It's on a graduated scale. So the match points correlate to a grade point. So not all 20 of those go in, but there's a scale. So depending on if you won or lost, winning is still incentivized, but you can still get a very good grade even if you lose. Does that make sense? You use the techniques we taught.
If you game it, it's very obvious to us as graders.
Anything else? Anything else I missed? Sir?
Solo.
Are we going to learn how to do guillotines?
No, just like
You got
there's a lot of
YouTube.
things out there that we wouldn't teach you. If you don't know it, then just kind of it's the same thing. If there's illegal techniques out there, we're not going to tell you what all the illegal techniques that we could talk about in here, because if you don't know them, then it wouldn't matter anyway.